I was drawn to the project because the artists that we see, so namely Young Thug, but other artists who over the course of the years have their cases have risen to national attention. So you see them on broadcast news. You always hear the district attorney speaking. You always hear the prosecutor speaking. You hear the news commentators speaking, but you never hear it from the point of view of the artists themselves. They're told to be quiet. They're made to be quiet in a courtroom. And so I felt that there was a story there that hadn't yet been heard from the artist's point of view. What was their take on what was going on? And so that led me to the idea of telling this story from Kemba's point of view as an investigator traveling the world and figuring out for himself what was going on and whether or not someone like him was in danger. So that was kind of the genesis of the project.
Yeah, so Jason reached out to me it was a really quick yes. Because I felt like it sort of encapsulated everything that I'm passionate about. And I was really drawn to it because I feel like the sort of prevailing idea behind the topic is just for most people is just like people you're rapping about violence and I feel like people are turned off by the idea that a lot of the art can be violent, even though we have this sort of appetite for violence in all these different art forms. And I was drawn to it because it's less about the guilt or innocence of any particular case and more about the practices that are sort of locking up people in huge numbers that nearly no one that has heard of this knows about. We don't know how much is happening in the sort of insidious ways that people are being sort of put away for it. So I was drawn to it for the like the real nuance and the depths of it.
Well, there's so many things to be outraged about this story because on one level it's a new tool for oppressing Black people, period. Just this, like, but then there's the other, and that's horrible. And the other piece is making Black truth disappear. This
Yeah.
idea of self-censorship of the culture. I mean, that to me, like, I don't know which pissed me off more. What are
It
your
works.
thoughts on
Yeah, as Kimba has said before, that it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So if you censor yourself, then you've removed like the core tenet of hip hop, which is authenticity. And if you don't, that's if you censor yourself. If you don't censor yourself, then you've got a huge target on your back. If you find yourself in a situation like this, in which lyrics that don't even pertain to the case can be misconstrued and mischaracterized and used against you, brought in as character evidence, not even to say that you did this thing, but that you are the type of person who could do this thing. And so it gets more and more perverse the way that prosecutors are using it. And so yeah, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah, but do you think there is a chill happening among artists? I mean, it seems like on a certain level, it would be hard not to consider it just for self-preservation. I mean, this is, do you find you talk to other artists and they are sort of thinking twice? I mean, that was sort of the premise of the film, right? It's sort of Kemba's recording and then basically being asked to think twice about his lyrics,
I
and then he's
mean, you
investigate.
can sort of see people starting to like put these disclaimers before the song, like none of this is real, it's all for entertainment, or that these are not real weapons in the video. And so there is a bit of that. But the idea of or a prominent idea in hip hop is being real or is being the sort of fearless. And so you're not gonna really see explicit, or you're not gonna really hear people say uh that I'm censoring myself. That's I don't think that's a yeah, I don't think the audience really wants to hear that. But you can see it affecting art in the, people using disclaimers.
If people could just come away from your film with that piece of understanding alone, it's sort of just, that it's just like the biggest message to writers is write what you know. That's like the
Yeah,
Yeah.
cliche.
that's a
Yeah.
great point. That's a great
But
point. And
it's really interesting to me. I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
That I think the totality of the film, everybody sort of represents one perspective. There's so many perspectives, but like that is very true. That is one perspective. He might feel that way. I might feel that I could write a song about a dream that I had, or like it was also said in the restaurant, or about what somebody else told me, or about a vibe that I've gotten. And I think the importance is that we don't know the inspiration behind the lyrics.
Mhm.
And so to use them is unjust.
One of the things that's really powerful in the film is you simply juxtapose what happens when white folks do this stuff, like whether it was Shakespeare, whether it was the folk song. I mean, I just think about Quentin Tarantino, one of the most celebrated filmmakers on the planet.
Right.
I mean, if he like he'd be in jail if he was saying that
Oh,
in
for
hip hop,
sure.
you know?
Yeah, for sure. The juxtapositions, you're right. We do that a few times just to keep kind of driving it home that there's a racist double standard because a lot of people will hear the word racism and they'll just turn off. But if you can show people that, hey, this is actually something that's been like culturally programmed for hundreds of years, that when you sit in that jury seat, you're operating knowingly or unknowingly with a you've been taught by culture that when white people do this, it's okay and it's entertainment and it's not for real. But when black people do it, it's for real, that they're actually violent, they actually intend to hurt people, and that there's no fiction there. And also that they're not smart enough to make a fiction in the first place. So when you sit down in a jury seat, you're not consciously thinking about that, but it's there in your mind because of the way that Western culture has brought you up. By you, I mean somebody sitting in a jury seat or a judge. And so, yeah, to explain it like in the context of genres over history, soul, jazz, rock, rhythm and blues, all the way back to Negro spirituals and slave songs. Like to explain in that context is one thing, then to show that there are empirical studies saying that this is the case, and then to go back and use a popular, English language example like Shakespeare, and to say that like Romeo and Juliet with Montagues and Capulets, it's just a gang story basically. It's like the Genius and the Vice Lords. It's the same thing. And you wouldn't hold Shakespeare in the same way in a courtroom the same way that you hold these rap artists. So hopefully there's a preponderance of evidence that would say like, hey, something's wrong here and there's a double standard. So yeah, that's what we were trying to achieve.
I don't know
Wonderful.
if you came across any Canadian examples, but I just know that when I look at the reporting in our Toronto Daily newspaper, when they talk about a shooting among Black youth in this city, it's almost always big right up front that the person was a rapper. So some
Mm.
suggestion that some,
Yeah,
which I
yeah, yeah.
your point in
Yeah,
your film.
totally.
So can you talk about that a bit? Because I think that is a real, like a little trick, secret way
Uh,
of white folks to
Absolutely.
kind of.
Well, Kimber, you were talking earlier today about like
Yeah, yeah. I think at the end of the day, that becomes this sort of a word that triggers these preconceived notions and these biases. And if not, if like less than 1% of these cases is like a big known famous artist, then what does it mean for the other 99? Is that these are regular people that write, that what they have in common is usually that they're black and brown people. So if you put rapper there, you can get all the benefits of a jury or a judicial side that already feels like they're scary or guilty, or it becomes way more effective.